So, welcome folks, I'm Alan and I'm here today representing the Centre for Applied Behavioural Sciences with 4 of our former third year, now fourth year students who over the summer between those years took part in summer research internship opportunities. And we had 5 internships altogether. I'm delighted we're joined by 4 of those students who are going to share a little bit about those experiences. So, to get us started with the conversation, I want to hear who you are, what was your big topic of interest, who were you working with in the team, and were you funded internally or externally? We've got a nice mix of projects. So Marcus, you're top left for me, so let's get started with you.
So I'm Marcus, and my study was on the transmission of behaviours of voting, cycling, and social media use. It was funded by the Centre of Applied Behavioural Science, and I had the pleasure to work alongside Monica and Miyawara, which was great.
Super, and we'll hear more about those topics as we go. Fantastic. Claire, you're next in a clockwise fashion for my screen. Tell us a bit about your experience in the same way.
I'm Claire. Over the summer, I was looking into super recognisers, and they're characterising the role of identity and emotion in face recognition of super recognisers. I was working with Louise Delicato and Josh Davies from the University of Greenwich, and I was funded by the British Psychological Society Assistantship scheme.
Now that is a mouthful and a half. Well done for getting that properly acknowledged. Fantastic. Next, clockwise, is Oscar. So Oscar, same little intro summary from you then.
Awesome. Yeah, hi, I'm Oscar. I was funded by the Carnegie Trust over summer, and with a vacation scholarship. We were looking into the social transmission of COVID-19 vaccination attitudes in students specifically. And like Marcus, I was alongside Miyawara, Christia, and Monica Tamaris. And yeah.
Super. And finally, last but not least, it's purely just where the windows fell in the logging in. So Dina, tell us your experience. Who were you working with? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I'm Dina. I conducted a 12-week-long project over summer with Dr. Mel McKendrick, and it was basically what was funded by the Carnegie Undergraduate Vacation Scholarship, and it was investigating the effectiveness of a virtual befriending activity for socially isolated adults.
Superb. So in my head then, we've got Carnegie funding, British Psychological Society funding, and internal school centre funding. So that's a real nice mix of things. So my first question for you guys to share with us is, how did you find out about your specific scheme or opportunity? And, how did you find out in the sense of how would other people in the future find out? So who wants to get us started with that? I'm sure you all had slightly different routes into this. Yeah, Dina.
Yeah. Well, I was part of the voluntary research assistant scheme at the uni, and Mel approached me I was working on her project, and she mentioned that this was an opportunity, the Carnegie was an opportunity available for undergrad students, and there was obviously only one chance that you could do it in your penultimate year. So she said that if I had any ideas or things I'm interested in, to just start thinking and obviously begin planning and applying. And yeah, that's how I heard about it, was approached.
Yeah, good. Other folks, was that a similar experience or different things? Marcus, yeah?
Mine was slightly a different route. I was approached by my personal tutor to just sort of consider applying for either of the two, just in a sort of routine catch-up call. And I applied and was very interested in the project and got it. So.
Yeah, so those ones, the ones that we funded, they were sort of posted out almost as job type adverts. So Dina's experience was that you came up with you basically created your own job, and Marcus's one was applying for a job that someone else. But in both of those stories, it sounds like having that engagement and connection with different members of staff is really beneficial. Would that be a fair sort of summary of that? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think if you don't mind, I'll jump in and agree too, because like Marcus, my personal tutor, we got the same personal tutor, Miyawara. She approached me with the offer of, would you want to maybe do a Carnegie thing with me? Because I know we had spoken in first year about an opportunity like that in third year. So yeah, I think it's definitely a reason that came to light was probably having, I guess, a decent name in the department, which then proved fruitful in the penultimate year.
Good, really, really useful, and I'm sure we'll come back to some of these things. Let me put another question out into the group then. So, what did you actually do? So when we talk about a summer research internship, a summer vacation scholarship, they're called slightly different things in different places, but you were working over the summer on a research project. What did you do though? Who wants to give us some ideas about what kinds of tasks you were up to? Claire, yes.
Jump in. Lots to summarise. Of course, it wasn't my own study, it was Louise's project proposal, but I was involved through the whole process. I was involved in initial testing before it went live, and following that, I was largely responsible for the managing of participant data, monitoring progress. Our study was a 4-part study, so we had to monitor when a participant did their first part to email them the invitation to the following parts after that. I was involved in the write-up and writing macro codes in Excel. That was something that I learnt with a lot of help from Google. Did that over the course of the internship as well. And yeah, lots of opportunities, and would highly recommend it, because although the description didn't have all these responsibilities in it, as the internship went on, I just picked up more tasks as we went, and anything that got done.
Yeah, so quite a busy but quite a productive, focused experience.
Definitely.
So other folks, did you have similar things or different tasks in your own projects?
I don't mind jumping in. I guess it's the Carnegie was different in respect to Claire's, because it was kind of, you go through the process of developing your own kind of self-directed project. So I guess what was quite interesting about what I found fun about Carnegie anyway was kind of getting to think about like problems, and then in the real world, which started with the kind of initial project proposal, and then actually going through the process of, okay, this is the kind of research question I want, this is what I'll be testing, how do I design an experiment around that? And over the summer doing things like building surveys on Qualtrics and stuff like that to try and answer that research question. And one of the ones that throughout that I really found was, when you came against problems of how do I solve this, and coming back to, well, how do I answer my research question and stuff like that, which I found was, it was quite fun in the sense that you were doing things and learning them with kind of a purpose that you would kind of set, if that makes sense. And it's also I learned R, a new statistical package, which is great fun too. And a big challenge that I didn't think I would get in university, which was great. Good,
and glad to hear there's been such a range of tasks there, and they're all important, but they're all tricky to manage. So hopefully some interesting experiences. Let me add another element to that question. What did you find out? Now, what I mean by that is, what results did you find out in your topic? So we'll get a couple of ideas here, but when I say this, do be very careful that we're allowed to share any of these results, because as we all know, sometimes we've got to wait for results to go through the full process. So who has an interesting, unexpected result that they would like to share with the folks that are going to be hearing? Yeah, Dina.
So basically, I think my projects were quite different because I did a qualitative research study, and basically it was, conducting some focus groups and interviews and things like that. And obviously the purpose of the project was to trial and also kind of compare the effectiveness of this virtual befriending activity, which was basically exploring a virtual tourist attraction in befriending sessions. And basically one of the main findings from this project was that actually there are so many things that prevent people from actually being able to do this activity. So I kind of set out thinking everybody would be able to do it, and that there's probably some issues within it. But instead it was actually that so few people could actually do it after contacting the befriending charities. So that kind of went on to do interviews with befriending service coordinators and find out what these barriers were, and if they're not just specific to the activity that we proposed, but also virtual befriending in general, not just the activity outlined in this study. So yeah, that was
interesting. So finding the thing that didn't quite work actually was the finding there. So as you say, the learning from that project was what we need to do differently or better to support people in those environments. Yeah, really interesting. Good. Who else has something that they're willing to or able to share? I'm sure we'll hear through various newsletters as the months progress on lots of conferences and papers coming out of these projects. But anyone got a nice little nugget of research finding they can share just now? Yes, Oscar.
I can jump in. Yeah. So one of the interesting ones that we found was that we looked at the attitudes of a student, and then also their parents, their mum and their dad specifically, and a best friend. And we were looking at, of these different social influences, which is the strongest one to predict the student's own attitudes. And really interesting was we found that it was a best friend's attitude that actually predicted the student's attitude the most, which, at least when I was going into it, was kind of counterintuitive. You would have thought, because you spend a lot of time with your parents, or maybe you look towards your parents for medical advice and these things. So you would have thought so. But then even more interestingly too, it seemed like the mother's behaviour, so whether the mother had been vaccinated, that seemed to be the most influential, and the father was like inconsequential completely. And the best friend was still there, but the mother seemed to like blow that out of the water. So we were going in thinking it was going to be this kind of oh yeah, it's going to be just parents and then no best friend, or just best friend no parents. But it seems like it's certain individuals that play a stronger role in some cases, and which raise questions of why and what kind of interventions can we design around this and stuff too.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. And I think there's actually a big similarity between what you and Dino were both saying. They're not in terms of the topic, very different topics, but the interesting aspect was we didn't expect that to happen. And then when it did, we had to have a good think about it, and then what comes next. And I guess as a research experience, you've encapsulated everything, not just doing the task, but the things that you come up against. So on that, then, that actually leads me perfectly into the next question. It's sort of a doubly framed question, sort of what did you learn from the experience? Or to put it another way, what would you have liked to have known before you got started that now you know and you can pass on? Yeah, Marcus, what do you want to share in that regard? You've got something that you've learned, hopefully.
Yeah, I think I'd probably speak for Oscar on this one as well. I also had to learn the statistical package. And, we'd never covered anything sort of like that before. And it was a bit of a baptism of fire, really. But, we got there in the end, and through quite a lot of collaboration, we got some sort of good data and some good code written down. But all of the stuff we learned has stood us in, very good stead for doing, our dissertations in final year, the data collection, the data handling, how to go about writing ethics. It's all sort of very transferable into this, final year of study.
That's a really neat thing, and the idea that it's not just about the problem or the challenge; it's then what's the benefit that might come out of that. So that's really. So you think that the experience is definitely already sort of making you think ahead about projects and analysis and what that looks like.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. What about other folks then? What did you learn, or what did you wish you had been told before you got started, or something like that? Any other experiences? Claire, yeah.
I'll jump in. What I never realised was there was such an opportunity, or so much available to you for your research. For one, I had absolutely no idea there was so many recruitment methods. I thought there was only maybe 3 or 4, but there's loads. But no, it's been a really valuable experience, and now starting dissertation, there's lots of things I know now that I wouldn't have known if I didn't do it. And they're not essential to know for the dissertation, but incredibly helpful, and also provides the opportunity for helping students in our cohort as well that could benefit them.
So there's lots of opportunities to, as you say, find out the things that you would never have known you didn't know beforehand, and you learn that by the doing the thing. Then you realise, oh wow, look at all this other information. Okay, really neat. So we're going to be wrapping up in a couple of minutes, but what is it about this scheme that you take away? What's the key thing you're going to take away from your opportunity over the summer with us? Yeah, Dina.
I think one of the main things that I learned from this whole experience overall, or that I'll take away from it, is just that what you intend to do probably never goes according to plan. And I think, well, especially with this project, I intended to do a quantitative research study, and because of, well, this major barrier, it ended up having to be qualitative. And like, you think that you know exactly what you're going to do, but I think definitely just, yeah, going forward, remembering that you have to always look forward in the research process, and you can never be in control of everything that's going to affect every single stage. So you have to just be able to adapt and modify, and obviously speak with your supervisor and try and plan ahead so that you don't just focus on what's happening right now. So, yeah.
That's a really, really useful reflection, isn't it? You can't know everything, and some things are going to come up completely unexpected. Hopefully lots of things you can plan a bit of, but there's going to be something you can't. And when it does happen, it's how you adapt and respond to that that's so important. Yeah. So let's do a quick round robin as we finish off then. Just one simple question for you all. Would you recommend other folks do this in their future third year into fourth year summer? Is this something that you would recommend others to do? So let's do it in reverse order from where we'd start. So let's start with Dina and we'll go reverse clockwise. So Dina, would you recommend folks do it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that seems unfeasible, and that I never thought, was something you could complete. But you really have nothing to lose by doing this. Only gain, in my opinion, an exceptional experience.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my mic off there. Claire, over to you. Would you recommend it to other folks as well?
Yes, absolutely. From a personal perspective, not only has it been academically, that's improved me academically for my fourth year and any further education I do, but I am much more independent and confident with everything that I'm doing now. Even if I am doing something wrong, that is fine. That's just a part of the learning process. So yes, I would definitely encourage you to do it. And if you can't find anything, keep looking, because something will come up.
Good. And Marcus, final words on the recommend aspect. No pressure, but would you recommend other folks consider something like this?
Yeah, not to just follow the group, but I definitely would recommend it. It seems quite a daunting opportunity as a third year, with the advertisement of, you have to learn all this, and, it seems quite a big task, but, I definitely would recommend it. I've taken so much from it, and, it stands me in the best stead to do, the best job I can at fourth year and onwards. So I definitely would recommend it. Yeah.
Super. Thanks for that. Now, I'm not wanting to volunteer you for anything, but I would expect that if folks were interested and wanted just that little bit of personal sort of advice, that they'd be okay to drop you an email and you'd be happy to share. Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. If students, particularly students in their third year, are looking ahead and thinking about it, here's a wee bit of the advice. Speak to these folks here. They've got the experience and they will be happy to say all the good stuff and also the stuff that are the challenges. I think that's fair. And speak to your potential supervisors, your lecturers, your personal tutor. If it's something you're interested in, starting to talk about those options early would be good. So thank you to our summer research internship folks. It's been a really phenomenal summer in terms of productivity. I look forward over the coming weeks and months to be hearing more and more about the outcomes and outputs, and also what happens next with your experience of that. Thank you for sharing those things, and good luck for those final year projects. Hopefully all those new skills come in handy. Thank you very much.